Actually, it is necessary.
Also, hibernation मध्ये पण फरक पडावा.
I must tell your concept is wrong written here.
Sorry.
C. You and C. Spelling.
Spelling.
Yes.
Assembly.
American English is very important.
In the early 1980s, there was a first study. Rahimullah first described the result of the coronary bypass, which leads to increase in all over myocardial contractility in the patient with ischemic heart disease. And at that time there was a question, why this increase in contractility after the bypass? Means if there is a complete means myocardial damage, ischemic damage, in maybe it is necrosis or it is loss of contractility due to necrosis. Why the increase in contractility after the reperfusion? That was the question arise at that time. So in this study, after these studies, people were thinking about there is some amount of the myocardium which is not contracting it due to acute injury or due to lack of blood flow, ischemia, but which regains the viability or regains the contraction after some time, after the revascularization. So at that time, this concept arise of there is some amount of the myocardium which is viable or which is kind of not functioning, but it is still viable. The 5-year survival in this study was significantly better in the surgical patient, 68%, than the medical group, which is the 54%. This comes the concept of the myocardial viability, and it come to view the terms such as hibernation in the study. Myocardial response to the ischemic injury. The onset of the severe ischemia, if there is a acute stenosis, acute thrombotic occlusion of the vessel, it may be subacute also, it may be acute also. So if there is a severe ischemia, within seconds the metabolism change to aerobic to anaerobic, and this anaerobic metabolism leads to decreased production of the high energy phosphate, just like adenosine triphosphate and the phosphocreatine. There is a timeline. For initial 20 minutes, if there is a flow is completely occluded for initial 20 minutes, that leads to occurring of the irreversible myocardial damage. The ultrastructural changes occur during this the mitochondrial swelling, the loosening of the intercellular attachments, the presence of the small or lipid-rich amorphous mitochondrial densities, and the dilatation of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. The myofibrillar relaxation. Now, within 1 minute of the acute onset, myocardium is functionally sensitive to ischemia and will exhibit marked contractile dysfunction. This is very important definition. Means they say in some literature the echo changes or the regional wall motion abnormality comes before the ECG changes. So if there is a this is the marker or this is the hypothesis we use during the dobutal stress echo. If there is a ischemia and if there is any ischemia leads to RWMA, which is documented on the echo first. However, these ultrastructural defects are entirely reversible if reperfusion occurs within 20 to 40 minutes. Now, irreversible injury. Irreversible injury begins in the subendocardial tissue and progress towards the subepicardium. In humans, it may take longest 6 to 12 hours for complete infarction. This is a complete infarction. Initiation of infarction starts after 20 minutes, and the complete infarction, what you call the transfluor infarction, if there is a complete occlusion, occurs in 6 to 12 hours. The necrotic changes are usually evident after 4 to 12 hours, and this may include the denaturation of the cytoplasmic protein, swelling, and the enzymatic digestion of the organelles.
And then my point is here is somebody there in good collateral circulation. It goes through this spectrum goes through for that.
I am coming to that, sir. I am coming to that. For the complete necrosis, complete occlusion or the myocardium should be deprived of all the blood or oxygen for complete necrosis. But viable myocardium must have following characteristics. First, ability to generate high energy phosphate, have intake sarcolemma. in order to maintain ionic and the electrochemical gradients, which is sodium, potassium, ATPase and PETCOM system, have sufficient perfusion both for delivery of the substrate and oxygen for adequate washout of the noxious metabolites. Now, in this definition, we are not saying anything about the contractility. So, the alive myocardium or the viable myocardium doesn't need to contract. If it is contracting, that is good, but myocardium could be alive without having the contractility. Now, there are two tissue states that exhibit the sustained contractile dysfunction despite of meeting three criteria. That is the stun myocardium and the hibernating myocardium. First, myocardial stunning. It was first documented by Hendricks in 1970s. Here is the original article. The regional myocardial functional and electrophysiological alteration after brief coronary artery occlusion in conscious dogs. So, in this study, they have studied this hibernating elements, myocardial dysfunction following the brief coronary artery occlusion. In this study, the electrophysiological alteration and the functional, the electrophysiology may be still intact, but the function or the contractility muscle was impaired. Now, the stun myocardium. This was article in the 1982. It was published by Brumwald. The first term, the myocardial stunning, was first introduced during this article in 1982. They have defined it as delayed recovery of the regional myocardial contractile function after reperfusion despite the absence of irreversible damage and despite restoration of the normal flow. So they are specifying two things here. There is no irreversible damage. Second, despite restoration of the normal flow, the normal flow is restored, there is no irreversible damage, still myocardial contractility is impaired. That is the definition of the myocardial stunning. The features of stunning. Normal perfusion is the must criteria for the stunning. Depressed myocardial function, the dissociation of the usual relationship between the subendocardial flow and the function. And it must be reversible. The function improves with the inotropic agent. The clinical relevance. What is the clinical scenario in which we are encountering this, the myocardial stunning? The first, brief period of the total coronary occlusion, patient with angina due to vasospasm. It is the pre-metal or the variant angina. Second, global ischemia after the cardiopulmonary bypass, with the post-CABG patient or the patient undergoing major cardiac thoracic surgery. Then, in combination, the subendocardial is infra and overlying subepicardium, reversible injury in MI. We are seeing the lots of patients with this kind of the variety. With the subendocardium is infra, but there is some salvageable myocardium in the subepicardium. The following exercise is the present of flow limiting stenosis. This scenario comes in the stress testing. Then the ischemic bout, that is induced by percutaneous coronary intervention. It is during the procedure if there is a ischemia. Now the pathogenesis of the stunning. Earlier it was thought it was the loss of and the reduced ability to synthesize the high energy phosphate. Then the impairment of the microvascular perfusion due to subendocardial injury or due to vessel injury. Then impairment of the sympathetic neural responsiveness. Excessive sympathetic neural responsiveness may lead to vasoconstriction and that may lead to impaired blood flow or ischemia. Then reduction in the activity of the creatine kinase, enzymatic activity reduction. This was the earlier hypothesis, but now onwards there are two major hypotheses for myocardial stunning. The first one is the oxygen free radical hypothesis and the second one is the calcium overload hypothesis. In oxygen free radical hypothesis, we are thinking that due to temporary ischemia, the myocardium is not able to clear out the free radicals which is accumulated during the ischemia. So it needs a time during which these free radicals are removed out from the myocardium. Second, calcium overload hypothesis. In the calcium overload hypothesis, we are thinking that the calcium intracellular with sarcoplasmic and the intracellular calcium balance is necessary to attain the normal amount of the contraction. But due to injury, this calcium balance or the calcium equilibrium is at fault, and that leads to decrease in the contractile function. But after some time or after revascularization, after necessary flow is established, this calcium will go again with the normal equilibrium and the contraction is restored. Now the time course of the myocardial sterning, the dysfunction may persist for hours or as long as 6 weeks post insult. But sterning is normally don't last that much long, up to 6 weeks, if the normal flow is restored. Both the duration and the severity of ischemia determine the duration of the post ischemia or reperfusion dysfunction. Mechanism of the contractile dysfunction in sterning. First, as we have discussed, the normal cardiac contraction depend on the calcium cycling and homeostasis. This brief ischemia followed by reperfusion leads to accumulation of the calcium and the partial failure of the normal beat-to-beat calcium cycling, and this damage the calcium pump leads to calcium pump interference in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This leads to electromechanical uncoupling of the energy generation. This is a Grammet pump.
Is this something like this equilibrium which we have post dialysis or something?
Yes.
It is something like this
Yes.
equilibrium. The
Yes.
same phenomenon is coming.
Yes,
Everywhere. If you see the stroke also,
definitely.
same.
Same.
We change the term penumbra,
Ischemic pain. Yes, sir.
right? What you are talking is the more or less same essence.
More or less same.
In psychology, you can say post-traumatic stress disorder of myocardium.
Yes, yes.
Definitely.
Very well said.
Yes, sir. Now, the second one is the hibernating myocardium. The hibernating myocardium is a
I agree, but what makes this thing?
sorry, sir. What makes the stunted one? Sir, the thing is decreased blood flow or the ischemia or subtotal occlusion. We can, in the clinical scenario, subtotal stenosis of the coronary artery or either vasospasm. Anything that leads to impaired blood flow in the particular segment. This leads to impaired metabolism and impaired calcium disequilibrium.
I am coming to that. Then ultimately it impacts the metabolism at subcellular level.
Definitely, so it impairs the metabolism at the subcellular level.
Subcellular level. What kind of abnormality takes place there?
Sir, normally there is a fatty acid oxidation, means the myocardium is primarily getting is
I
always.
am asking because your treatment may lies there.
Yes, sir, definitely. Treatment is there. Sir, in stunning, they are telling that it is a myocardial response to prevent a further damage. Stunning and hibernation is the both. It is like just ourselves. We are too tired, we are not able to work, and we are getting to get the sleep. It is kind of the sleep of the myocardium. So we can say if there is a increased workload of the myocardium,
But who induces my whole
I
point?
think it is.
That is not stunning. That you are describing is hibernating.
Who
Stunning is
induces?
something different.
If you and I are talking nicely now,
yes,
and suddenly I give you a slap, then what happens is
Yes, that is.
that is stunning.
it's stunning.
Yes, sir.
So your response is that I have no problem, nothing, and suddenly what happens? So that stunning, I think, is an adrenergic phenomenon. The same is happening here. When there is an occlusion, there is sudden
That is a
shock to the
sudden
myocardium.
shock.
It can't handle it. That is what is stunning.
But in every lecture, if sir slaps you, then you go into hibernation. Yeah, that's the actual difference between them.
Yes, sir. That is the difference between stunning and the
That
hibernation.
is in chronically occluded.
Yes, hibernation is the chronically occluded.
See, this was I was talking. SPAC rule. That is coming from them.
Yes.
Right? So you go to the molecular level. Right? What produces it as well? And how you can minimize or reverse the issue.
Sir, all the treatment we are guiding for the angina, they are basically the treatment that ultimately act on the myocardial metabolism or the oxygen demand. So they all can prevent stunning, or they all can limit the necrosis or limit the myocardial damage. But the main thing is stunning and hypertension for us is to how to expect how much patient will improve after revascularization or after the bypass surgery, whatever the intervention we do. So that could predict some amount of improvement in the myocardium after the surgery.
You strike early to avoid stent. That is the bottom line.
Definitely, sir. That is the point.
So which drug will help without increasing perfusion in improving the performance of hypertensive myocardium?
Sir, recently they are saying ranolazine is improving that, but beta blocker can also. But the problem with beta blocker is they don't lead to increase in contractility. Ranolazine may give you good functionality of the myocardium, but beta blocker and the rest of the drugs, they are not good giving result like the increase in the contractility.
Any other newer drug?
Diabetazidine.
Any other? So the reason of success of SGLT2 inhibitors in heart failure is this.
Sir, there are multiple mechanisms, but
What is the main mechanism in heart failure by SGLT2 inhibitors?
So main mechanism is the first is they are decreasing the preload and afterload, decrease the load of the heart first. The second thing is the shifting of the metabolism from glucose to the free fatty acids.
Exactly. So the hibernating myocardium will feel better in presence of SGLT2.
That feel better, but
Without increasing perfusion. Perfusion is not touched
perfusion
by
is not
SGLT2.
going to improve with that. None of the drug is going to improve the perfusion.
Unless you do revascularize, it's not going to work.
Ironically, as I told, all cardiologists and nephrologists were sitting, sleeping, and diabetologists gave them the drug.
Yes, sir.
And they are using it.
Nowadays, cardiologists are writing day in and day out. Even cardiac surgeons also.
So, even by diabetologists.
But it is still a new drug, and we don't know much about this drug. We come to some of the effects after 5 to 10 years. There are so many drugs which come recently or which come before 5 to 10 years, and we are not using it at present.
It's already 5 years.
But at some places it has been used in a randomly, means cardiologists have started using that drug far earlier than this.
Yes, sir, definitely. Actually, even they are saying that this drug has effect.
Nephrologists, Tapan Vela.
Actually, they are saying this drug has the more effect even in the non-diabetic patient also. They have good effect. So that's why everyone is using it.
So in last week of February, USFDA approved for heart failure with preservatives infection as well without diabetes.
Yes, sir.
In ADS it was there for last 6 months, but in preserved was 6 months.
Actually, they have approved for Preserve, but it is not proven benefit at presently. Means RNA has a proven benefit in the Preserve.
Reserve RNA don't have any benefit. Reserve RNA don't have any benefit. There are only subclass where are some improvement was there. There was no mortality, but in Preserve you will not expect mortality benefit because you don't expect Preserve heart failure
Symptomatic
patient to
benefit is
die.
there, but mortality benefit is.
Yeah.
I think none of the drug is giving the mortality benefit in the
So I don't think RNA is approved in Preserve. Is it approved?
RNA is
Ronak is there?
approved. Yes, sir. RNA is approved in Preserve.
Only subset માં બધામાં નથી.
સબસેટમાં પણ આવી ગયું.
Now, hibernating myocardium. The hibernating myocardium is a state of persistently impaired myocardium.
Persistently.
Persistent, yes, definitely, sir. It is a state of persistently impaired myocardium.
Persistently temporary.
Yeah. Persistently till revascularization, not permanent.
Right?
Yes,
Otherwise,
persistently.
no fog again can come to LRS.
If someone catches that something is going wrong,
The polar bear will not live up to 6 months. It is hibernate.
The left ventricular function and raised due to reduced coronary blood flow. It can be defined as exogenely regulated tissue successfully adapting to its activity to prevailing circumstances. Now, the characteristic, the episodic or the chronically reduced blood flow, tissue ischemia, and the resultant remodeling without necrosis. The remodeling is there in hibernating myocardium, but it is not necrosed myocardium. Then the residual contractile reserve in response to anatropic stimulus. and the recovery of the contractile function after successful revascularization. Now, mechanism of the hibernation. There are three hypotheses there. The first one is the smart heart hypothesis. In smart heart, we can say the heart has less of income, so heart expands less. So that is the smartness of the heart to prevent myocardial damage. So less blood flow leads to decreased metabolism, and the decrease the function, which leads to decrease in the total energy expenditure by the heart. And if we go timely revascularization, that leads to recovery of the function. The second hypothesis is repetitive stunning hypothesis. Repetitive stunning is the same sir has given example. So repetitive stunning is maintain blood flow at rest, then demand ischemia, maybe LVH or increase the workload. That, and after decreasing demand, there is a recovery of the ischemia, or there is a subcritical stenosis is there that leads to demand ischemia. So repetitive stunning is there, leads to depressed contractile function, and after revascularization, this function improves. Now, the last one is the survival hypothesis. Survival hypothesis, in case of repeatedly demand ischemia, or we can see in non-obstructive hypertrophic kind of condition, in the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, we can see this kind of the mechanism. Genomic trigger that leads to proteins of the cell survival. This protein has a specific function that alters the metabolism of the myocardium, and these protein that prevent the apoptosis, but they also leads to the decrease in the total energy expenditure, which leads to decrease in the contractile function, and this is called the survival hypothesis. In this hypothesis, they are saying that this is mechanism preventing the necrosis and preventing the myocardial damage. Now, the natural history of the hibernation. If the patient has the coronary artery disease, the critical stenosis, the progressive cardiovascular resistance, then stenosis is more than 80%. Exhaustion of the cardiovascular reserve. If more than 80% stenosis is that, they lead to exhaustion of the cardiovascular reserve. This lead to myocardial ischemia and stunning with minimal changes in minimal changes in myocardial metabolism on quotient. That is the oxygen use of the myocardium. The repetitive ischemia and stunning, cumulative effect of this repetitive ischemia and stunning leads to the functional hibernation. And if we go with the revascularization, the early functional recovery. But if we delay the revascularization, that leads to tissue degeneration. Some amount of the tissue degeneration is there, and that leads to the structural hibernation. So patient, even after the revascularization, if patient is going into the structural hibernation, even after the revascularization, that may take some time to gain a normal functional or the normal contractility of the myocardium. This is late functional recovery, 6 to 12 months ago. In stunning, the recovery is in the hours to the days, but in hibernation, the recovery is in the month to years. Now, after all this discussion, what are the tests or what are the functional?
So hibernation, if not corrected, can lead to death.
Yes, hibernation if not corrected lead to cell necrosis.
But very slowly.
Very slowly.
Is the quality optimal?
Sorry, sir?
Optimal. You see, whole tissue runs on an optimal. Excess is bad and much less is also bad.
Yes, sir.
It's the adaptation phenomenon.
Yes, sir.
And if I comment as such, one of the component Jayesh will happy to know is the Silutin 6. This Silutin 6 increases the longevity, put you in a hibernation as such. And this was the mechanism our Rushi's
movies, yes.
Right? Now we know.
Polar bear also goes for 6-8 months.
Yes,
Right. And their Silutin 6 is much higher. You see?
That Silutin 6 is trained by the mind.
Absolutely.
It's a central pituitary hypothalamus axis which controls that.
But then it put the things into hibernation.
Yes.
Right? So they live for a very long period and
With minimal activity.
with minimal activity. Like a frog. We have learned from frogs,
Yes, sir. We have learned from.
reptile.
So I think that ICU people, many a time hypothermia they use for multi-organ dysfunction.
Yes, sir.
Sort of hibernation.
Actually, it is major use in the neonatals. If there is a birth ischemia at birth, there is a specific treatment limit means for the birth asphyxia, and they are putting the temperature control at the 28 to 32 for the specifically there is a thermal cap for the newborns.
Even
Post.
sudden cardiac death. You see, near sudden cardiac death. There the once patient is resuscitated, they put in a hypothermia.
Yes. Identifying the viable myocardium. Now, the key to non-invasive method to identify viability is first ECG, gives you very little information. There is almost no changes in the ECG. Second is the echocardiography and the DSE. The most important is the dobutam stress echocardiography. The third one is the SPECT, the single photon emission computed tomography. Then positron emission tomography, and the last one is the MRI.
So I think during phase of acute myocardial infarction, does ECG help to see?
Acute myocardial, so definitely.
For what?
But it is
If there is no Q wave, but just ST elevation, would you rush this patient to get them?
sir, ST elevation has multiple causes. Means even
So it is MI, proven MI, see. Forget everything. It's a proven MI, anterior wall, there is no Q wave, just ST elevation of 7 millimeter. So there is a stunning pressure. So it should give some indication, at least in MI.
Definitely.
Okay, in chronic hibernation it may not.
chronic hibernation it is not. Now, the characteristic of dysfunction but viable myocardium. The contractile reserve, which is estimated by the DSE, dobutamine stress echocardiography, and the dobutamine MRI. The intact cell membrane, which is studied by the thallium-201 SPECT analysis. The intact mitochondria is technetium-99 in SPECT. The glucose metabolism is studied by the FDG PET scan. ECG, there is no clear correlation between the Q waves on the ECG and the presence of the viability. The patient with preserved QT dispersion are likely to have viable myocardium, but the patient with high QT dispersion is predominantly non-myocardial scar tissue. Now, the DSE, it is extremely useful. It is a first-hand tool we can use very commonly to analysis that. In this, hypokinetic or akinetic regions, which is improving after the low dose dobutamine infusion, is indicative of the viable tissue. So second, at higher doses up to 40 microgram per kg per minute plus atropine, the wall motion may improve or diminish. Means even the segments which were improved with the low dose may diminish during the high dose, reflecting the inducible ischemia. The biphasic response at low dose, so improved in the lower dose you have improvement in the contractile function, but at higher dose contractility regress as the metabolic demand which overwhelms the increased blood flow.
Can you do a dobutamine stress in an acute situation?
No, sir.
Then this very thought of looking for stunning and viable myocardium doesn't fit in, because most of the time we can only do an echo. We can't do dobutamine.
So definitely, but we are
This
not.
could be a research tool, but our condition in ICU, we won't shift the patient for a DSE.
So definitely, sir.
So then in that situation, what will we look for looking for stunning myocardium in the first 72 hours?
It is not indicated in the first 72 hours. It is a primary. All this hibernation and the stunning is for the patient who has missed during the acute MI, or they have missed if the patient is developing the acute MI and the thrombolysis is done or some medical management was done previously. In that case scenario, we have to analyze if there is any viable myocardium is there.
Then you can research.
Yes, that is the for
How much has come back and how much is still stuck? To separate that, right?
Yes.
The dose.
So when you will do after thrombolysis, after how many weeks?
Sir, ideally they are saying if thrombolysis, means if patient comes
Revascularization in any form. Is
before
that-
doing any revascularization, we can, means this is the particular to give the answers. If the patient is asking me about I have triple vessel disease, there is an 80 or 90% block in my back, or I have thrombolysis previously. What is the benefit of getting CABG, or what is the benefit of doing multi-vessel plastic? So I can give answer with this report, that is you are increasing the
But
function.
this answer you are not going to find in acute phase.
Yes, sir,
That
definitely. It
is
is
what
not
I am asking.
useful.
When you will do a DSC of a patient who had recent MI?
Sir, they are saying if you have not thrombolized, we can do it after 30 days. If you have not thrombolized.
So essentially we are trying to see hibernating myocardium, not stunning myocardium.
Yes.
So now onwards I think the slides are on hibernation, on chronic phase.
It is not like that, but if, sir, we
During
don't know
stunning,
it
yes
is-
sir, stunning is an acute event. So you are not going to check with DSC on acute event, right? That is what you say. Correct me if I am wrong, or what I understood.
Sir, you are understood, but the main thing means that is your point is true. But the problem is we don't know it is stunning in some patient. If there is a no ECG change, if there is a no MI history, we find in the angiography. Means I am just some specific patients in which there is a 80 to 90% blockage is there, but we don't know it. The RWMA on echo is due to blockage, but the timing of the blockage we don't know. In that patient, means without doing angiography, we can give him some idea that will be improvement in the function after the vascularization.
So, but it is at least 3 to 4 weeks or 6 weeks after in the index event.
In some patient, there is no history of MI.
No history, then it is,
Yes.
then it is essentially a chronic thing.
Exactly.
So it's not stunned, it's a hybernatic. That is the point. Is right?
The stress echo interpretation. First, it is normal, in which hyperdynamic in the peak and the rest and low dose response is normal. But the main thing is the hibernating and stun. Here comes the where hibernating or the stun. The basic difference between the hibernation and stun is the oxygen flow, means or the ischemia. Here, in some cases, hibernating, the low dose stress test is improved contractility, but as the stenosis is critical, 80 to 90%, these patients lead to worsening at the peak dose. But if the myocardial is stunning, in that case, we can say stunning in the post PCI patient or the post CABG patient in whom the flow is normal, revascularization is done. Stun is a phenomena after the revascularization. If there is any impairment in the flow, we call it a hibernation.
Sometimes we find that post-CABG plastic patients do not feel symptomatically better. Those are the patients where you look for this and
Yes.
say okay, this is going to
Definitely.
take some time because in a start situation it will improve.
Definitely. As we said, the reason for improvement in at the peak stress is there is no flow impairment at the high stage. So the improved contractility will remain improved in the stun myocardium.
I think this is your most important slide.
Yes, sir.
When we did not do this, way back when I did the stress test post-MI, we used to do the sub-maximal stress testing which has gone out now because of logarithmic stress.
करवाना तो होया stunned. So in this case, in which of the condition you will revascularize, in hibernating or stun?
Hibernating, sir. Stun is already
It's
revascularized.
already revascularized.
Stun is already revascularized. We don't need to revascularize.
Suppose it was not revascularized, then
Sorry.
suppose there is a patient, we
Sir,
don't have any,
RDF.
wait, we don't have any index event. There are just symptoms. There is on echo you got RWM, right? You did DSC, okay, and you get improved at low dose and improved at peak as well.
The thing is, the patient had a ischemic event, but vascularization is complete. No need of any intervention in that case. You can check CAG, but that may need any intervention. They may not need any
There is
intervention.
not a history of an index event.
Whatever, we don't know the history.
Means revascularization. That's what he says.
stunning is means if there is a peak dose, sir, that is a clear-cut indication, means that is a clear-cut result of the DSE. If you have no RWMA at the peak dose of the dobutamine or with the targeted heart rate, no need to intervene. Means कोई अगर patient don't develop any RWMA, don't intervene the patient. You can do the angiography if you want to just for your satisfaction, but don't put any stent. Now, there are 4 slides. Means there is the 4 phase. First is the basal phase, then the low dose. In case of the septum, at low dose, septum has little bit contractility. Means I am not able to play video here. That's okay. Means the septum has improved contractility. In high dose, it is somewhat, means the contractility is not improved in the high dose. And but again after the recovery, there is a some amount of the contractility is there. I am not able to play video here, so sorry. The studies. First study is the Naga et al. Showed that tissue with more than 70% fibrosis failed to exhibit any contractile. In study of the Pagano et al. Reported that diagnosis accuracy of DSE was reduced with the increasing severity of the regional global LV dysfunction. Means the DSE has the some limit to detecting the stunning and the hyperreting. So basically it is underestimate the extent of the viability. There are some tissue which are hyperreting during the phase but may not able to get positive response or the get contractility during the DSE also. Now Wiggers et al. The low dose dobutamine failed to identify 45% of the segment that ultimately regained the function. Now the myocardial.
So in that study where low dose 45% were failed, so what was the result in high dose in this 45% patient?
Regain function means if there is no regain function during the low dose, there is very less chance of gaining the function.
Fine, but they must have checked at high dose as well, na? In this 45%. What was the result in high dose? That is what I am.
Sir, they have checked low dose dobutamine and compared it with the, means we have result of during the study. They have compared after 6 months of the revascularization. They don't have providing the data with the peak dose. They are not providing the data, but they have compared with the revascularization.
So peak dose was I just don't know.
No, actually, sir, they don't have data.
પેપર લખવા માટે કર્યું છે.
The myocardial contrast echocardiography. The myocardial contrast enhancement depend on the intact microcirculation. The combination of the intravenous myocardial contrast destruction replacement of the contrast intensity curves. Basically, during the contrast, if we give myocardial contrast, there is a specific border, means there is high contrast leads to the identification of the RWMA more better, much better. Means and if there is a subendocardial flow, impairment in the subendocardial flow, which is more specifically identified with this contrast. Now, here is the slides. In the lower range, you can see the contrast leads the specifically outline of the myocardium and this more improved function of the contrast. In the results, hibernating myocardium was similar to the segment with the normal function and higher than the dysfunctional myocardium without recovery of the function. So, in the myocardial contrast, hibernating myocardium due to opacification is there, due to subcirculation is there in hibernating myocardium. But if dysfunctional myocardium, if there is a necrosis, there is no contrast enhancement.
So what contrast you use here in MCE?
Sir, it is a commercially available contrast. First is agitated saline is used normally. Agitated saline may lead to the air bubble for microbubble formation. That is.
Can you take next time after 9:35?
Exactly, sir. That's why I am asking the same thing because the SPECT and it will
Next time.
if you are agree, I can continue next semester.
Sure.
Next time.
Continue next.
મજા આવે છે બધા